Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise to support this bill, and it's really pleasing to see us really actively looking to encourage and accommodate new technology in this space. And we certainly, in the Greater Hobart Traffic Congestion Inquiry, had a lot of discussion around how to better encourage and facilitate the adoption of new devices and new technologies. So this is welcome. I won't go over the similar ground to other members, but certainly endorse the questions and comments that have been made already. A couple of points I wanted to pick up on to put to government and see if where the thinking has been on these elements, and perhaps encourage some further action if there hasn't yet been thought put to them. One of them is in relation to the accidents that we know will occur, because we can look to other jurisdictions and see, and from our understanding it's likely the private use of these vehicles will be where that may be centred. And it's not so much about an issue of liability, and I know others have raised those issues. The thing I wondered about it is how will we know and ensure that we are collecting accurate data about these accidents and injuries and the impact that they're having, or the costs that they're having on the community. Particularly, of course, while on the one hand we've got accidents that may be reported to police and be captured in terms of data in that way, through that reporting mechanism, that's one thing. But then we know many of the accidents, in fact I think we heard in the briefing the majority of the accidents are likely to involve the single vehicle and the injuries to the driver themselves, rather than necessarily to others. And I'm imagining that in many cases they might be relatively invisible in terms of data collection, unless we're looking for ways to actively try to monitor and capture and measure that. And we know, of course, that there will be costs associated with those sorts of accidents, whether it's direct costs to the person themselves in terms of injuries and their property, but also more broadly costs to us through the healthcare system or medical response even, maybe. But things like loss of work time, loss of productivity, and those sorts of things that flow from injuries that people have encountered. I think it would be interesting for us to understand what this looks like as a picture going forward, so we know and can potentially better accommodate and prepare for or ameliorate these situations. It's new to us. These are new devices. We haven't yet encountered what the full impact will be. So I'm interested about thinking that's been done to try and capture that picture in a data sense. Another thing I'm quite interested to understand whether we're looking to actively monitor and map going forward is how these personal mobility devices show up in terms of our property crime in this state. Because again, they become something that I think is going to inevitably show up in things like our theft and crime statistics, damage.
Getaway vehicles.
Getaway vehicles. I'm not sure about that one, but potentially it would be interesting for us to see. There'll be new and unusual uses, I'm sure, for these vehicles. And that comes to mind for me because I have family members in other jurisdictions who utilise these, and there's already been involvement with theft and damage. So will we be mapping and monitoring where these new vehicles sit in terms of that going forward, so we understand the picture? And the third thing I wanted to bring up, and it's really probably one that's quite close to my heart really, because it relates to older Tasmanians, which is always from my past work history been something I'm very interested in, how we manage and provide wonderful opportunity for older Tasmanians in this state and ensure that our ageing demographic, which we know is a feature of our state, is really well catered for in a policy sense, and really we optimise the value and the contribution of older Tasmanians here. So the thing about these devices that I think we would readily identify is that they have the potential to discourage older Tasmanians from using public spaces or accessing particularly city areas. And that's not a reason not to allow these vehicles or not to have them become part of the picture of our cities and our communities. But it's something for us to be mindful of, because we know that if older Tasmanians become fearful about accessing public areas, that's going to have an impact on their lives, because confidence is very important for maintaining independence in older Tasmanians, and independence is really important for maintaining health and wellbeing and quality of life. So I'm very interested to see if perhaps the government would contemplate a commitment of some sort to perhaps partner with COTA, Council on the Ageing Tasmania, as the peak in that space, to monitor the views and experiences of older Tasmanians as we embark on this journey. So now, at this early stage, prior to introduction or around the time we're introducing, and then at intervals going forward, so that we can really understand, as this becomes more embedded and widespread, the use of these vehicles, we understand how older Tasmanians are experiencing and being impacted by them, so that we can better equip ourselves as a community to ensure that those potential negative outcomes are ameliorated and don't come to pass as best as possible. I'd really like to see an active commitment to look at that as part of this the rollout and the regulation as we regulate and roll out these vehicles. And those were the things that I wanted to add into the debate today. But of course, I'm supportive of the bill, and I'm very supportive of us seeing really widespread use to the benefit of the whole community of these sorts of devices and technologies.
Question is, the bill be now read the second time. The honourable member for Hobart.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as the honourable member for Nelson pointed out,